Hi and welcome to my channel. So today we're going to talk about what makes intrusive thoughts obsessive. So everyone experiences intrusive thoughts. They're completely natural and normal as a human to have these intrusive thoughts at different times in our lives. We can think all these random thoughts. The difference between someone that experiences intrusive thoughts now and again and someone that has the obsessive nature of the intrusive thoughts is because there's deep repressed emotion at the unconscious level first. So this was there first. This would have been experienced throughout the person's life, most particularly childhood level. And when a person experiences an emotion that can't be expressed, that feels dangerous, that feels unsafe to express, or they're not able to express it, it becomes repressed in the form of anxiety, shame, guilt, fear, terror, and the list goes on and on and on. And this emotion that is repressed, this is in the unconscious. And it's the unconscious that is the nervous system. So in other words, when a person then experiences an intrusive thought, the issue is that that emotion, that repressed emotion, is awakened, is activated. And it's this repressed emotion that keeps the intrusive thoughts obsessive. So then what happens is that person goes for treatment and they go and they try to address the intrusive thoughts. They go to try and address the obsessiveness of the intrusive thoughts. And while I get that, and while that's a completely logic thing to do, and that's exactly what I done, however, that does not get long-term results. That does not get long-term relief. Why? Because we're not dealing with the repressed emotion that first was there. And when we start to deal with the repressed emotion, how we do that is we learn to regulate the nervous system. So this repressed emotion will feel like our nervous system is in the flight, fight and freeze response, and it'll be in that default state. So unless we are regulating and learning how to regulate the emotion and learning how to regulate our emotional responses through various different practices, the practices I use for myself that had OCD and also I use with clients is a Pacific breath work, a Kundalini Yoga Pacific breath work for OCD. And what happens is over time is that with the practice of this on a daily basis, not just when we're in a trigger response, because that's not going to happen. We're not going to do it. We'll act out the compulsion or we will do the behaviour we need to do in order to feel some sense of safety. But when we do these practices every day, what happens is that our nervous system becomes more regulated. And what ultimately that means is that the feeling that that obsessive intrusive thought created within our system starts to dissipate. It starts to become less and less. We're not as activated. Therefore, what happens is that the less activated we are, the less response to these intrusive thoughts that's happening, the less obsessive they become. And they start becoming less and less and less and less. Why? Because we're dealing with the root of the issue. What else we can do is we do somatic based practices to release deep held tension, stress and trauma from the body. And when we start doing that, this is a neurological effect. So it also changes our thought patterns. It also changes how we feel internally. And overall, we start living our life free from OCD. This is how it works. This is really important for you to know because we all need to support. We all need support through talking, but talking will not be enough to change this for you. It's not about going back to the past and looking at emotions. We know what kind of emotions we're holding now on a daily basis when we feel these intense emotions, when we're experiencing obsessive intrusive thoughts. These are the emotions that need to be healed. these are the emotions that you have been holding on to. So for me personally, when I was experiencing the obsessive intrusive thoughts, I felt huge amounts of fear, despair, definitely huge amounts of shame, feeling guilty, feeling bad. I had them emotions first. I just wasn't aware I had them. They were there first as repressed emotions, but I was not aware of them. And it was only when I experienced the obsessive intrusive thoughts that these emotions come, that these emotions really take over my whole psyche and my whole body. So this is going to be really valuable information for you. Why? Because it lets you become more educated around how to actually, what treatment do I need? How do I go about changing this? How do I go about, regulating the nervous system? What does that actually mean for me? And that will allow you to make more informed decisions for when you do go for therapy or treatment. That you're aware of, okay, well, I've been in talk therapy maybe for years, which I've done. And while it's all really useful and helpful to have support and someone to talk to, it didn't give me long-term relief. I was still stuck with triggers constantly. I was still overcome and completely panicked, just constantly feeling anxious and terrified of these thoughts. So it wasn't until I healed this at a deep level through healing. It's not through the logic mind. We're doing very, very deep practices, specific breath work we do every day to regulate the nervous system. And then we bring in these specific practices, also somatic based practices called trauma release exercises. And when we start doing that, everything starts to change. Everything literally starts to change. And it seems like it feels really, really good to be able to know that this exists for you, and that when you're empowered and when you're educated to know what actually I need to do in my life, it gives you the steps then to take to go forward to change this. So if you'd like to know a little bit more about the program I run called the Free From OCD program, I'll leave a link below and we can have a chat and just to see how it fits in with your life, where you are at the moment, and I look forward to speak to you then. Thank you.